Please remember to give the video a thumbs up, share your insights in the comments, and subscribe to keep up with our newest narratives. That night unfolded in a manner I could never have anticipated, forever altering my perspective on the world, the journey off me career, the decisions I've made, and particularly the companion with whom I toiled for more than 10 years. Yet there are instances that catch you off guard, revealing themselves like a masterfully orchestrated melody, each tone resonating profoundly within your soul. The evening began like any other, seemingly unremarkable. The annual gala of the company had just concluded, and the city lights twinkled through the expansive glass windows of the rooftop venue. The mirth of my colleagues lingered in my ears as I ventured outside, breathing in the crisp night air, thankful for the reprieve from the clamor. The slight pinch of my heels served as a constant reminder of the long hours I had spent in my feet, wearing a smile that masked the fatigue beneath. As I prepared to depart, I glanced back at him, James Carter, the man who had been my boss for the last 12 years. With silver gracing his temples and a wardrobe that spoke of sharp elegance, he moved through the world with the assuredness of one who had forged his own path from humble beginnings. At 61, he exuded the same composure and control as always, yet there was an unmistakable shift in his expression that evening. "Just getting some air," I replied, a faint smile gracing me lips. The festivities were truly remarkable. Moved alongside me, hands nestled in his pockets, his typical demeanor off command, gently muted by the warm illumination of the street lights. It was indeed, however, I must admit these gatherings don't quite resonate with me. A soft laugh escaped my lips, humorous. "Each year you welcome them into your space. That's just business," he remarked, tilting his head slightly in mid-erection. In contrast, you appeared to genuinely relish the experience. I merely shrug. "I suppose I've mastered the art off performance." He released a soft chuckle, and for a fleeting moment we lingered in a serene silence. The city buzzed with life, yet in that fleeting moment it was merely the two of us, standing shoulder to shoulder, detached from the rigid conventions of the workplace. Then arrived the words I had not anticipated. He confessed, "I'm not ready to return home just yet. Would you be interested in sharing a drink with Met?" Here was a moment of uncertainty. It was quite common for us to converse beyond the confines of our workplace, engaging in late-night calls and strategy meetings that extended well into the evening hours. Yet this sensation was unlike any other. His tone carried an unspoken weight, a subtle hint that sent a slight thrill through my veins. "I certainly do." At last I spoke up. "What's stopping us?" We strolled down the street, leaving behind the dazzling towers of downtown, and ventured into a more tranquil part of the city. He guided me into a cozy lounge where the lighting was dim and the gentle strains of soft jazz filled the air. It was a location that exuded a sense of eternity, remaining unscathed by the frenetic pace of the world beyond. As we nestled into a cozy corner booth, he relaxed his tie, a rare sight that caught my attention. He gazed at me, truly gazed at me as though perceiving me in an entirely fresh illumination. "You've been with the company a long time," he remarked, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. "It has been 12 years. I inclined my head in acknowledgement. "Have you ever pondered how life could have unfolded had you taken a different route?" His inquiry took me by surprise. "Are you inquiring whether I harbor any regrets about my decision?" She gently shook his head, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. "No regrets, merely a matter of curiosity. Have you ever pondered the paths left unexplored?" With a deliberate breath I released the air slowly. It seems that at some juncture we all find ourselves in that position, yet I have always held the conviction that each choice we make, every path we traverse, guides us precisely to the destination we are destined for. He offered a smile in response. "That perspective is truly insightful." We engaged in a deep conversation, truly connecting for the first time in years. It transcends the realm of work, eluding the confines of deadlines and quarterly reports, and delves into the essence of life itself. He recounted his formative years, the challenges of establishing the company, and the sacrifices that accompanied the journey. I revealed fragments of my being, the aspirations I once nurtured, the experiences that molded my essence. The passage of time became indistinct. One drink flowed into two, then three. In that moment caught between nostalgia and joy, the atmosphere around us transformed. He extended his hand across the table, his fingers lightly brushing against the back of my own, tentative and probing. I remained steadfast, refusing to withdraw. A fleeting instant, a breath held in anticipation, where all things teetered on the edge of uncertainty. And then in a hushed tone he confessed, "I've never shared this before, but my admiration for you extends far beyond your professional achievements. Your presence has a remarkable ability to ensure the world, providing a sense of stability amidst the surrounding chaos." Me heart raced with a heightened rhythm. I have received my fair share of compliments before, yet this one carried a weight that was unmistakably unique. It was not mere flattery, it was an essence profound, an authenticity that resonated. "You have always been my unwavering anchor," he continued, "and perhaps it took me far too long to grasp the depth of that significance." I swallowed, caught in a moment of uncertainty, grappling with how to reply. He transcended the role of mere employer. He was a figure I had held in high regard for many years, a person whose insights I had cherished more than I was willing to acknowledge. And yet ACI sat there enveloped in the cozy glow of that softly illuminated lounge. My thoughts drifted far from work and the demands of professionalism. His gaze lingered on me, a look that suggested he was finally perceiving a woman he had previously kept hidden from his own sight. "I should probably head home," I finally admitted, though my voice betrayed a lack of certainty. He regarded me intently for prolonged Moment then gave a nod of acknowledgement. Allow me to guide you. The streets had grown quieter, the city embracing its late-night cadence. Upon arriving at my building we paused at the entrance, savoring the moment. He expressed his gratitude for the evening for the attentive ear offered to him. A smile graced my lips. The sentiment is mutual. I could express the same to you. A moment of stillness, a flicker of uncertainty, and then before I could reconsider my decision I leaned in just a fraction, just enough in. That instant the universe shrank to encompass just two souls as the echoes of the past and the whispers of the future dissolved, leaving only the present moment to breathe. Yet just as the moment hung in the air I withdrew my breath, faltering good night, James. The first whispered, crossing the threshold before I could surrender to the depths of my emotions. With the door shutting softly behind me I leaned against it, my heart racing wildly. A change had occurred in the dynamic between us, and deep within I sensed that this was merely the dawn of something greater. As dawn broke I found myself rising earlier than my usual routine, my thoughts ensnared in the remnants of the night before. The way James gazed at me, the warmth of his hand resting against mine, the unvoiced sentiments lingering in the air between us. For years I had regarded him solely as my superior, a figure of authority, respect, and an unmistakable barrier between us. Yet now my thoughts were consumed by him, James, the man who had shed his defenses, who had shared his innermost feelings with a gentle honesty, who had gazed at me in a manner that sent my heart racing. I shook my head, attempting to dispel the swirling thoughts as I poured my morning coffee. This was utterly absurd. Nothing transpired, nothing was destined to occur. As I stepped into the office an unusual persistent tension enveloped me. Astha, the very atmosphere had sure to glimpsed him through the transparent barrier of his office. He was engaged in a call, yet for the briefest instant his gaze lifted and connected with mine. A moment of stillness, a moment of uncertainty. He offered me the faintest of smiles, a subtle gesture meant solely for my eyes. A subtle tempest stirred within me, an unspoken force beneath my skin. The hours slipped away in a haze of discussions and correspondence, yet my thoughts wandered endlessly. James' presence felt amplified as he lingered by my desk with an unsettling frequency, his gaze locking onto mine for a heartbeat longer than was comfortable. As the afternoon waned a sense of restlessness began to stir within me. I craved the invigorating embrace of fresh air, a balm to soothe my racing thoughts. As I emerged onto the modest office terrace I breathed in the invigorating chill of the autumn air. The city throned beneath a harmonious blend of off honks and murmur conversations. Engrossed in my own musings I failed toned the door creaking open behind. Might seems you've been keeping your distance from me. James' voice carried a serene quality, yet beneath the surface a subtle tension lingered. I pivoted, managing a soft laugh, steering clear view that seems rather theatrical. He moved nearer, his hands buried in his pockets, wearing that same enigmatic expression. Could it be? With a weary sigh I pressed my fingers against me temples. James, the events of last night, it was unlike anything else. He completed it on my behalf, I am aware. I gazed up at him, the man who had been my companion through countless years of toil, and yet in this fleeting moment he seemed like a stranger. Perhaps at long last I was perceiving him with clarity. We can't do this, I murmured, the words echoing with an emptiness that resonated even as they left my lips. He regarded me intently for a prolonged moment, then let out a breath. I understand your thoughts. You perceive the inherent danger in this. The way it alters the landscape of our reality, it certainly alters the course of events, I asserted with conviction. James, you hold the position of my superior. There exists guidelines and anticipations. I don't care about rules, she interrupted, his voice low yet unwavering. My gaze lingered on him. This was not the poised, deliberate individual I had come to recognize. This was another individual, a person who for a change was free from the burdens of business control and responsibility. He found himself lost in thoughts of me. You're making this more complicated than it needs to be, he continued, his tone now gentler. Last night we transcended the roles of boss and employee. We were merely two souls, and I believe, I am certain, we both experienced something profound. I took a deep breath. That does not imply it is correct. He inclined his head, his eyes probing into mine. And still you haven't expressed that you don't feel it as well. I parted my lips, yet silence enveloped him. The truth lingered between us, palpable and unfiltered. A sensation had stirred within me, a sensation that had eluded me for what felt like an eternity. He edged nearer, his voice a mere breath against the silence. If you believe it mistaken, I'll let it go. Last night will fade from my memory as if it never occurred. I had the desire to, I longed to utter the words, to distance myself, to feign that everything might revert to its former state. However, I chose not to, for I found myself uncertain about my desirito. Proceed. The atmosphere surrounding us shimmered with tension, an unseen force drawing us nearer. My breath caught in my throat as he extended his hand, his fingertips grazing my wrist with the lightest of touches, a query rather than an assertion. For the first time in years the desire to think eluded me. I remained steady, fast, refusing to withdraw. James' fingertips brushed lightly against the inside of my wrist, yet the sensation reverberated through me entirely. My heart raised, the heat of his hand igniting a subtle tremor within me. For years I resided within the confines of expectation of myself, my career, and my age. My existence was meticulously crafted around the pillars of predictability and reason. Yet as I stood there, James gazing at me with an expression of surprise and intrigue, I sensed the very walls around me begin to transform. He lingered, his gaze Fixed searching for any indication that my desire mirrored his own, and in that instant I acted. I exhaled, gently releasing the tension that had built within me. James the first, find myself uncertain of the path ahead. He offered a faint smile. Neither do I yet. That does not imply we must flee from it. A gentle breeze whispered across the terrace, sending a chill down my spine. He observed, at once removing his suit jacket and gracefully placing it over Miss Holder's. His scent, a whisper of spice cologne, enveloped me in a warm and familiar embrace. Come on, he urged, gesturing toward the office door with an nod. It's time for us to leave this place. For a moment I paused. Are you referring to the present moment? What's stopping us? She's voice carried a certain lightness, yet beneath it lay an undercurrent of quiet determination. I cast a fleeting look back through the glass doors. The office buzzed with the vibrant energy of the day's end as individuals navigated the familiar rhythms of their routines. Should I choose to re-enter, I could foresee the unfolding of the evening with crystal clarity. I would collect my belongings, return home, prepare a meal, and find solitude with my reflections, feigning that everything remained the same. Yet a shift had occurred. For the first time in ages I felt a compelling urge to seize the moment and not let an opportunity slip away. Indeed, I delivered my voice with a steadiness that surprised me. Let us embark on this journey. We found ourselves in a serene, softly illuminated restaurant, just a short stroll away, the sort of establishment where the melodies lingered softly and the waitstaff communicated in whispers as James poured a bottle of wine. The first sip cascaded down my throat, igniting a warmth that began to dissolve the tension within me. With a deliberate motion I placed my glass on the table and inquired, what precisely is our purpose here? He reclined, observing me with that same inscrutable look he perpetually wore in the office, yet this evening an unfamiliar presence lingered in the air. To be frank, he swirled his wine, observing how the rich crimson liquid danced in the light. I longed for a place with you, a sanctuary where pretense could fade away. I swallowed hard. Fain hellicked his gaze with mine. That final night held no significance. The words settled in the space between us, weighty and undeniable. I parted my lips, seeking the perfect words to express myself, yet for once I felt a desire to abandon caution. I preferred not to dissect each word before it escaped my mouth. I released a breath. Indeed it did. A fleeting shadow danced across his features, perhaps a sense of relief, or perhaps something more profound. Our conversation stretched on for hours following that moment. It's not centered on duties or obligations. It's about the connection between us. I shared with him truths I hadn't dared to voice for years. I had devoted so much time to prioritizing my career above all else. How I had persuaded myself that love, passion, and connection were meant for others, individuals in their youth, individuals who possessed an abundance of time at their disposal. James absorbed every word, truly absorbed. As silence enveloped the space between us, he extended his hand across the table, his fingers grazing mine in a gesture both unassuming and intentional, causing me breath to hitch. He assured, you share that experience with others. I placed my trust in him. As we departed from the restaurant, the city had settled into a serene hush. The streets shimmered under the gentle amber glow of street lights, while the distant murmur of traffic broke the stillness that enveloped us. West rolled for a time, both reluctant to utter the words of farewell. Just yet at the crosswalk he paused and yelled back at me. I don't want to rush this, he said softly, but I also don't want to pretend that it doesn't matter. My heart raced. James, he let out a soft chuckle, shaking his head slightly. Indeed it is a complex matter. A soft breathy laugh escaped my lips that barely scratches the surface. Lingered for a moment, the city bustling around us, yet it felt as though we were the sole inhabitants of the universe. In that moment instinct took over. I moved closer, unburdened by thought or hesitation. James' breath caught in his throat, his gaze probing into mine. At last I allowed myself to embrace my emotions. The kiss unfolded slowly with a hint of hesitation reminiscent of the initial notes of a melody that remained unfamiliar to both of us. At that moment his hand gently ceded the side of my face, his touch both cautious and filled with reverence as definitely separated. His forehead lingered softly against mine. This alters the very fabric of our reality, wouldn't you agree? I murmured. It does, he whispered, yet perhaps that isn't entirely a negative aspect. With my eyes shut I allowed the warmth of the moment to envelop me. Perhaps, just perhaps, he held the truth. After all, the following morning I awoke, a tumult of emotions churning within me, a whirlwind of anticipation, trepidation, and the unknown. The recollection of the previous night danced upon my lips, nestled in the warmth of James' caress, captured in the way he gazed at me as if I were a treasure worth the wait. Yet as the morning sun poured through my bedroom window, the grip of reality began to seep back. And I remained in his employ. He remained my superior. We had traversed a boundary that could never be reversed. The soft vibration of my phone echoed from the nightstand. James, good morning. I trust there are no regrets lingering in the shadows. A faint smile tugged at the corners of my mouth as I responded, with me fingers dancing across the keys. None, you, he replied without hesitation. James, not one at all. May I have the pleasure of your company later? There was a moment of uncertainty, not for lack of desire, yet I found myself uncertain about what the future held for us. Is it possible for us to thrive beyond the confines of the office, beyond the carefully traced boundaries we had adhered to for such an extended period? With a deep inhalation I steadied myself. Indeed, a conversation is necessary before we proceed. That evening we gathered at a serene park on the outskirts of the city, far removed from the clamor and the watchful gaze of the workplace. James stood there poised against the bench Hands tucked casually into his pockets as I made my way over. He raised his gaze as I drew near, his expression more tender than I had ever witnessed. Greetings, he remarked. Hey, I murmured, settling down beside him. For a fleeting moment we lingered in silence, observing the golden rays of the setting sun weave their way through the branches off the trees. In that moment I found my voice. James the First must seek your insight. What are the next steps from this point onward? He let out a breath as though the question had been lingering in the air, anticipated and inevitable. He confessed that he lacked all the answers, yet I am certain of what I wish to avoid. I wish for last night to remain a part of our reality, not something we choose to forget. I inclined my head with deliberation. I feel the same way. He shifted his gaze in my direction. Let us refrain from framing this in terms of roles or expectations. Let us turn our focus inward, embracing whatever form that may take. I swallowed hard. And what off work? He let out a gentle laugh. This will not impact your career. Your efforts deserve better than that. Should the need arise, we will engage in a discussion regarding boundaries within the workplace. Yet I find myself reluctant to let go of whatever this is merely due to logistical concerns. His words found a place within me, stirring something profound and unspoken for an eternity. Have allowed my trepidation of the unfamiliar to restrain me from embracing risks, from experiencing emotions I convinced myself were reserved for the young. Yet there stood James by my side, ready to unravel the complexities alongside me. I extended my hand toward his. Very well, I replied, my tone unwavering. Let us embark on this journey.